Let's give a little intro for all my homies, all my boys down below me. Well, at least on my screen, you're below me. Gary Lee Haskins, you already know him. He's in most of the episodes. Go follow him on YouTube if you aren't already following him. Magma Sloth, Tay Chilla down below. All their information will be in the description, so make sure you give them a follow because they're always putting out some cool shit. Excuse my language. Don't swear. If you're not swearing, don't start it.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say. What else? Anything else? Am I missing anything? I do not think so. So let's just dive right in. Yeah.
Let's get it.
The Urantia Book, paper 56, Universal Unity. I want to give a little preface before we start this. Going into this paper, I want to just quickly touch on a concept that we talk about a lot at the Legacy. It's called triosophy. Thinking in threes. Looking at the universe and reality through a tripartite lens. So imagine you have three lenses and they all need to be in focus to get a clear picture. If you're not looking at reality through all three lenses at the same time, simultaneously, you're going to perceive a distorted universe. You're not going to perceive the universe and reality in its true form. If you want to see it in its true form, you need to be focused on all three parts at the same time. These lenses are called mind, body, and spirit. You can say it a bunch of different ways. I'm going to say it two different ways right now, and it kind of helps you get a better understanding. So remember that mind, body, spirit. Now let's do, that's, mind, body, spirit. Or in other words, it could be thing, meaning, and value. The physical thing, the physical object. And then behind that physical object is a mental meaning. And also behind that mental meaning and physical object is a spiritual value that you can get to. The third way, the most basic way to put it, is fact, idea, and relationship between the two. It's really simple if you really think about it. It's only two things. It's fact and idea, the material fact and the mental idea, and then how they relate to each other. And that creates the third value, the relationship, the spirit. If you can look at the cosmos and if we could read this paper through that lens, it would help you, the reader, and us understand it more. I'll give you a little simple example. Pen. Let's analyze it through the trisophic method, right? A pen. What is the thing? The thing is elements, particles, atoms, right? Material, actual physical energies used to make the pen. That's the thing. What's the mental meaning? The word pen, the name that we give it. The fact that what's it mean? It means that we can write things. It means that we can record information. It means we can draw things,
Yeah,
Those are
like
mental
a
meanings.
symbol.
Yeah, symbols, word symbols. Now, we just did the thing and the meaning, right? We have the elements and the material with the pen, which is the thing. We have the meaning, the word pen, and it means that we have the ability to create the pen. It means that we have evolved to a scientific advancement in society where we have pens. Now, let's relate those two together. Let's relate those two. How does the fact and the meaning come together? I can use this pen to write a masterpiece, or I can use this pen to stab someone in the eye. Okay. Now there's a hierarchy. Which thought form was higher? Obviously, writing a masterpiece, not stabbing people in the eye. See, and we just kind of did the trisophic method, just like the scientific method to analyze reality. So we always have to think in threes: thing, meaning, and value. If you only focus on one, you're already looking at it distorted. But it's not just elements. It's not just the pen. It's not just a thing you can write things with. You can kill someone with it, So yeah, just keep that in mind, and you'll notice that theme throughout the entire Urantia book. They even reveal it. That's how the angels on high look at the reality. They only think about thing, meaning, and value. And if you can analyze it through that, you can kind of understand it correctly. It's a clever trick. But all right. So universal unity. Paper 56. God is unity. Deity is universally coordinated. The universe of universes is one vast integrated mechanism which is absolutely controlled by one infinite mind. The physical, intellectual, and spiritual domains of universal creation are divinely correlated. The perfect and imperfect are truly interrelated, and therefore may the finite evolutionary creature ascend to paradise in obedience to the Universal Father's mandate, "Be you perfect, even as I am perfect." My favorite quote. I say it to myself almost 400 times a day. If I were to get tattooed, I'd get that tatted on my chest, get it tatted on my forehead. Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 48 in the Bible. That's where it comes from. That's what Jesus says. Moving on. The diverse levels of creation are all unified in the plans of administration of the architects of the master universe. To the circumscribed minds of time and space mortals, the universe may present many problems and situations which apparently portray disharmony and indicate absence of effective coordination. But those of us who are able to observe wider stretches of universal phenomena and who are more experienced in this art of detecting the basic unity which underlies creative diversity and of discovering the divine oneness which overspreads all this functioning of plurality, better perceive the divine and single purpose exhibited in all these manifold manifestations of universal creative energy. Cool. So, yeah, they're able to see the unifying aspects throughout the entire cosmos. And that's what the paper is about.
It's an art form.
It is.
Yeah, really kind of.
Take the first one. Sorry, man.
Gary, if you want to jump in, we could just kind of go in order here.
What's that, for reading?
Yeah, if you want.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I just wanted to say, basically, this paper, seems like kind of a mind bender. It uses a lot of kind of out there, high level concepts of cosmology and theology, but really the essence of what it's saying is all things are related in the grand scheme of things, and so that trisophic method, for example, thinking of God as the source of everything, the sun as the form that is inhabited by that, and then spirit as the world that we're immersed in, and I guess the space in between the forms. This entire paper is basically going into detail over like all the different aspects in which the parts are related to the whole. That's kind of how it all gets tied together. So just keep that in your mind. That's the common theme that's recurring through all these sections we're going through, is really just universal unity.
Yep. And before, real quick, we always say this. This is a catchphrase amongst us. Unity, not uniformity. Unity, not uniformity. One more time. Unity, not uniformity. We can have different ideas. We can be totally different people. We can have totally different hobbies, but we can still come together for a common goal. We can come together for a common purpose. And that's why we're here on planet Earth, is to come together for the common purpose of helping us all grow to our potentials. I see this weird disease of separation, isolation in society. Everybody is quick to write each other off, is quick to try to slam dunk on each other. They want to like prove a little mental point. And it's a way to like separate and fracture society. Every time you do that, you fracture the whole more when we're supposed to be integrating it more. Every time you choose to be like a shithead to someone or be like sassy because you think it's cool, you're fracturing society more. You are part of the problem. We're not here to fracture. We're not here to separate and isolate. That's not why the cosmos created us. So every time you do that, you're holding back the race another 500 years, 1,000 years. The entire point is to integrate. So that's what this paper is talking about. How even on the grandest scale of the cosmos, if you look at a flying rock at the far left of the cosmos and you see like a energy grid on the far right of the cosmos, you can't tell how they're interrelated, but they are. This paper talks about that. And if it's happening up high, then we need to start practicing that down here. You know, we're interrelated. We need to stop fracturing and isolated. So universal unity, baby. That's it.
Amen. Want me to take over?
Hell yeah.
All right. Physical coordination. The physical or material creation is not infinite, but it is perfectly coordinated. There are force, energy, and power, but they are all one in origin. The 7 superuniverses are seemingly dual. The central universe, triune, but paradise is of a single constitution. And paradise is the actual source of all material universes, past, present, and future. But this cosmic derivation is an eternity event. At no time, past, present, or future, does either space or the material cosmos come forth from the nuclear isle of light. As the cosmic source, paradise functions prior to space and before time. Hence, would its derivations seem to be orphaned in time and space, did they not emerge through the unqualified absolute, their ultimate repository in space, and the revealer and regulator in time.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
The first statement, the first paragraph in that, or the first sentence in that paragraph is highly controversial in the scientific community and any type of thinking. The physical and material creation is not infinite. You know, people think the universe goes forever, you know, but it's saying here there is a wall.
Didn't Terrence Howard just say something?
Damn, I was just about to segue. I was just about to segue into that, dog. Exactly. I was going to say the homie Terrence Howard had a beautiful way of describing it. Like when you drop something in a pool and the ripples go out, and then when the ripples hit that wall of the pool, they come back and create an interference pattern. And that's happening in the cosmos. So it's kind of a way to kind of understand that there is a cosmic wall. Or I guess not like I guess you could say a wall. There's just like a outer boundary of the cosmos.
Yeah, there is a boundary, and it's like the universe is infinite because it's growing and it's eternal. It'll last forever, and it will continue to keep growing and growing. But it isn't just if you keep going out there, you're going to keep finding more and more and more galaxies. Like from our perspective, like it may as well be infinite because it's so vast, but there is a boundary, and that's another cool part of about the part in the whole. You study holography, crystal holography, and encoding a hologram. If you shatter that holographic image, the entire thing is encoded into the part, and that's kind of what this is.
Yeah, it's like Mandelbrot sets, and what's that other shit?
Mandelbrot is another good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Fractals, right? They're called fractals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gnarly. I had something in my head, but I totally forgot. Cool. Oh yeah. So I want to bring over some things from the Keys of Enoch, which I think like kind of lines up with how the Urantia book portrays the cosmology. It says like the entire creation's a cone. Think of a construction cone, or like a cone, an orange cone, like a street cone. A street cone is hollow at the top, right? There's a hole, and at the bottom there's a bigger hole, right, with a base. The Keys of Enoch says the universe is shaped in a cone, but a really flat cone, not as sharp as like a construction cone, like flatten it out. So it's a really flat cone. At the top is still that circle part, and right above the circle part is where paradise would exist. That's paradise up there, and then the cone itself is the material universes. And Earth is at the very outside of the base, way down here. And we need to ascend inwards and upwards back to the Father. That's what the Urantia book keeps talking about. In reality, you're going inwards and upwards, because we're ascending back into that. So if you look at the universe from the top down, it looks like a circle, the paradise in the center, with the material universes radiating out. If you can hold that image in your mind, it might help. So
you're one of those flat cone universe theorists.
What the fuck? You're a flat universer.
Inward and upward.
Yeah,
I like that. All right.
That cone example, that does sort of help me visualize how paradise is outside of time and space. Time and space being anything that has the motion of matter, where it talks about the paradise isle is completely stationary. And so it's not that it's at the center of the pancake. It's actually like
above
it doesn't have a real point in space, but from that stationary bit, like underneath it is like this emanating cone.
Yeah.
Now we picture it as being underneath, but again, that's only a spatial thing for us to place it. But technically for us to that's why so the Urantia book says that your soul being sort of transferred into different levels of the universe as you continue to survive. You actually are geographically going to the center of the universe, because that's the access point for the stationary isle, which is the residence to meet or get closer to and understand the mystery of the universal Father, which is the first consciousness, the first self-aware being, personality ever. before even time and space, which is the emanation that came out of it. So this is the whole universal unity, is like, how do we get from the first consciousness to all these many consciousness? There's 4 of us on this call right now who we all think we're different people. We seem to have different experiences. Like, how do we get from a multiplicitous experience of many personality experiencing time, space, the universe? How do we get from there to that source consciousness? And where does all that come from? What's the relationship in between those things? Because thing meaning fact, that thing is like, okay, I have my body, that's like the fact, that's the matter. Tyler has his. Gary and Deadrick, we each have the body matter, but then we have our individuated minds with personalities. And then also, your Urantia book says that we have individual spirits, which is a little bit different than our personality. And but yeah, that's sort of the connection between all of us, is that we're all on a similar mind network. We all have a spirit from the Universal Father that we can use to travel into infinity for the infinite adventure. So,
Taylor, you kind of just brought a thought to mind. Thinking about the third element there, that value as almost like the space in between. You know how like an atom is, or a molecule is mostly empty space, but you have those charges, those source charges in the middle. Their relationship is that space in between. And I almost think our spirit is kind of defined by our space between
body, mind,
value. So
Mm.
you can't truly practice spirituality if you live a life in complete isolation.
Yeah, it's cool. And I like how you're talking about unifying divergent data points. We have you said multiplicitous, a great word, a bunch of divergent different data points, and we're unifying them because we all seek the same values. We're all seeking the same mental pictures, and we all are in physical bodies. What's cool is, from my point of view, this is just the way I think after reading the Keys of Enoch so much. I think in pictographs, scenario abstracts, like we're talking about the light cone. Taylor was painting a picture in my mind. What unifies us are these pictures, these holographic pictures that we see in our minds, and we want to unify them. We're striving to unify them through this conversation, and we are striving to help others see the same pictures through this conversation by putting it out there. These pictures in our mind, they're not our pictures. These are like ancestral pictures of the cosmos that are, think about them on Paradise, just these concepts radiating into the material universe. And we just pick them up. If you're good enough, you can pick up the higher concepts and pull them down. And the higher concepts, the higher light images, they unify you because we all start seeking those same light images, those same light pictographs. And
same archetypes.
Exactly, the same cosmic mental archetypes. And these are the unifiers. If you keep seeking those, we will be unified, as opposed to fucking ass, tits, cars, and all that shit.
Yeah, no.
Which are nice, don't get me wrong, but
a different kind of unification.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's my last 2 seconds of holding up the reading. So
good. It's good, man. Shiva, Shakti, Purusha, Prakriti, the unmanifest, manifest, many different ways to explain it. But
I love it when you talk like that to me.
I'll tone it down, man.
Damn, over here getting all hot and bothered.
You're moving too fast here. Moving too quick.
You just hit me with that from Shiva Shakti.
I'll stick to English.
Yo, Gary's doing some tantric word mancer.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm speaking in tongues here. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, if you wonder why your seat's a little wet.
Oh, okay. Well, on that note, I'll keep going, man.
Yeah.
The unqualified absolute upholds the physical universe, while the deity absolute motivates the exquisite overcontrol of all material reality. And both absolutes are functionally unified by the universal absolute. This cohesive correlation of the material universe is best understood by all personalities, material, Urantia, absonite, or spiritual, by the observation of the gravity response of all the bona fide material reality to the gravity centering on nether paradise.
Uh-oh. Well, we just opened a can of worms. And we're going to have to explain it because if you're not really understanding it, It is crazy. It is not crazy, but it's a deep concept. First of all, they just talk about the unqualified absolute. You're just like, okay, that's a word. I don't know what the hell that word means, but it's there. And it's actually a very important word to understand the cosmology of the universe. So the Urantia book goes into detail about qualified and unqualified absolute. It would be like unqualified absolute would just picture a raw energy field, just raw, undifferentiated energy, pure energy. That's it. You can't, no forms, no nothing. Everything is exactly the same, undifferentiated, pure, raw energy of the highest type that you can conceive of. Just infinite, eternal energy field. You can't really see anything in there because it's all undifferentiated. You kind of just, everything's kind of just wavy in there. And there's nothing there. It's just energy. And then I guess that energy hits like a transformation point, or like has a fulcrum, or has like a little singularity point where when the energy goes through that, it qualifies and it becomes what we consider energy down here in the cosmos. So what we're perceiving as qualified energy, energy as a qualified to become condensed in the material universes. So get that, just keep that in your mind. Unqualified would be the energy before it trickles down into our cosmos, way up there above paradise. And then below paradise is when paradise is that turning point. Paradise turns it into qualified energy, which we can now use for the construction of the cosmos. I'm going to keep going for 1 second. My theory is that stars is how the unqualified kind of trickles into our cosmos. It leaks into our dimension. But the third thing this brings up is deity absolute. Deity absolute is a third thing you have to keep in your mind. We just did qualified and unqualified, but deity absolute would be the actual beings, the beings who come out of the unqualified, the beings who come out of paradise, like Michael, all these Gabriel, all these high universe personalities. Those would be deity absolutes, and they are the ones who are kind of in charge of that qualified, unqualified transfer in our universe. So I hope that explained it pretty quickly. Magna has something to say.
So I'll D-Bake, I got to qualify your statement on the qualified absolute.
Hell yeah, do it.
This concept, it's clarified in the foreword, and that's why I think it could be useful for us to pull a quote from the foreword. Although I don't want to get us off track here too much, but really the way it defines it under the section on the first source and center, the absolutes are an aspect of the first source and center, what we would call God the Father. He's the source of all energy, but it's a way of differentiating God the waterfall versus God as Jesus Christ. You know, that there's an impersonal aspect to God as well as a personal aspect to God. So the qualified absolute is the deity absolute. Those words are interchangeable. And it's basically a way of saying the unqualified absolute, like you said, is like raw, undifferentiated energy, kind of as it trickles down into this world. But it's worked with by personality, which is deity. Those are also synonymous because personality comes from the Father. That's the gift from the Father. And so we are kind of like low-grade deity as human beings because we have personality. And as we're, moving around in this world, as I turn the pages of this book or eat on some watermelon or something like that, I am qualifying the unqualified absolute. And it gets a little tricky where you try to draw the line because there isn't really one hard line between unqualified and qualified. Like you could say, this chair you're sitting in and this desk in front of you are a result of the unqualified absolute. But this desk was built by human hands. It was worked by the qualified absolute. The wood was grown from trees, and even that life, that growth of life, was taking inert matter and indirectly qualifying it as personality, as what we'd call deity, as kind of breathed life into our world. And so, in a way, every bit of impersonal inert matter has been touched by the qualified absolute in a way, and that's why we use a third term, the universal absolute, to kind of blend those two together. It's almost like a yin yang. You got this interplay between the personal and the impersonal. So when you hear those words getting thrown around, that's really what they're talking about. It's just God, because he's trying to escape the fetters of absoluteness, I guess. He's trying to escape from being all there is and all there could be. That's why we have this world where we can have separation and then kind of climb our way up. That's, I guess, another term which will get brought up here, which I might as well bring up, is the Supreme Being. We'll get more into that later, but that's kind of where the Supreme Being comes in, is this evolving facet of God. If God's like a multifaceted crystal, there's God, the perfect creator, and then there's this realization of God in our experience as we kind of qualify the unqualified absolute through the universal absolute.
Does the Supreme come up in this paper?
I believe the Supreme Being does come up in this paper.
Okay. All right, let's get to it. Let's keep going. Sorry,
Let me drop a quick note on qualified versus unqualified absolute. So absolute is, you can pull up the dictionary definition, but it's trying to get to like that which, like, what is absolute. Okay, one, we need something that is absolute, otherwise nothing could be here at all. So we can't say that there is nothing, that if you go back to the center of the universe and find the source of everything, it can't be nothing. It has to be something. So,
No.
But if we call that something multiple things, that's not getting back far enough to the origin of the universe. So the farthest back you can go is a word like absolute, which is basically just like that which always is or always was, ever is. And then from that, you have what is manifested. And like we're having experiences here, so we go, okay, this has manifested and we can trace it back to the absolute. How do we make that journey? That's what this paper is talking about. And if you want an example of how to think about it in your experience, in your mind, you have a lot of ideas, but it's only the ones that you take action on that become manifested and that sort of exit the absolute potential of all the ideas you might be able to have. So that's, if you think of it like that, the manifestation of thoughts, it can help you get into this idea of, reality gets back to,
that's wild.
A mental universe. Consciousness is mental primarily. So the initial, in Genesis, it uses the term, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And then it says like things were spoken into existence, but really it's like the predecessor of words is thoughts. So what, we know that God is not he doesn't need a physical language, although you could say that the physical language of God is the energy of time space. So he's thinking in thoughts to manipulate the words, which is the energy of time space creation, the matter. And that's how he's bringing creation into its manifestation. So this is what we're talking about when we're breaking down these levels. How do we get from consciousness, pure undifferentiated consciousness, to differentiated beings, differentiated matter, planets, different levels of reality, matter, morontial, spiritual. So those are the differentiations and how that absolute concept works into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how it's all unified.
Yeah. Trisophic method. If God, mind, body, spirit. If the Father, Son, and Spirit. If the Father is the thought, we as these forms are the word, we're the expression, and then the Spirit is kind of like the world we inhabit, which is the reception and interpretation
of that too. Yep. The interplay between the three. Look at that. Breaking it down trisophically. That is pretty cool how we're kind of involved in the process, Planet Earth hasn't yet had the kingdom built on it, has it? No. It's in potential, but we can be that fulcrum turning point to turn that unqualified into qualified reality, We can get those thought forms that aren't there yet and change the planet. We can be partakers in this transaction that they're talking about. It's pretty cool. But yeah.
Gravity unification is universal and unvarying. Pure energy response is likewise universal and inescapable. Pure energy, primordial force, and pure spirit are wholly pre-responsive to gravity. These primal forces, inhering in the absolutes, are personally controlled by the Universal Father. Hence does all gravity center in the personal presence of the Paradise Father of pure energy and pure spirit, and in his supermaterial abode.
Nigga controls gravity.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah, right.
Pure energy is the ancestor of all relative, non-spirit, functional realities, while pure spirit, pure spirit is the potential of the divine and directive over-control of all basic energy systems. In these realities, so diverse as manifested throughout space and as observed in the motions of time, are both centered in the person of the Paradise Father. In him they are one, must be unified, because God is one. Obviously.
Yeah.
The Father's personality is absolutely unified. In the infinite nature of God the Father, there could not possibly exist duality of reality, such as physical and spiritual. But the instant we look aside from the infinite levels and absolute reality of the personal values of the Paradise Father, we observe the existence of these two realities and recognize that they are fully responsive to his personal presence. In him, all things consist. The moment. Oh, you gonna say something?
No, I just like your Boston Paradise Father.
It's the Paradise Father. Oh man, I wasn't even aware. Now I'm gonna
I can tell.
I'm gonna have to overemphasize that now.
Yeah.
Please
That's
do.
the Paradise Father. Oh,
I'm gonna overemphasize every ER into A now.
oh shit, that'd be fucking awesome. The Urantia Book, but the Boston version, the Massachusetts version.
The moment you depart from the unqualified,
Fuck, I knew it was coming.
the infinite personality of the Paradise Father, you must postulate mind as the inevitable technique of unifying the ever-widening divergence of these dual universe manifestations of the original monothetic creator personality, the first source and center, the I am.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
That's,
so the second, that's a gnarly fucking sentence,
Yeah.
right? Talk about a title. The second he differentiates, they postulate mind as the technique. So that's where mind comes from, springs from. And that's what it talks about the Trinity. The second the Father and the Spirit separate, the third source separates too, and that's the mind. Because remember, the mind comes from the third source and center. So it's interesting.
What is
Mhm.
Monothetic? I don't know.
Monotheism.
Monotheism, yeah, just a single.
Positing but one essential element. All right.
All
You
right.
just had to throw in a big word.
I know.
Oh, also, Gary said, when it said God is one, he said that's obvious. But actually, we kind of take that for granted because on Earth and on many planets, it's not obvious because in the tribalistic viewpoint of long ancient times and also groups even today that are totally segmented from the world, their first idea of gods is normally manifold. It's normally, they make gods out of everything. They see spirits and stuff out of everything. And actually,
Polytheism.
the reason why we even today have such an idea of monotheism is this interesting story known as the Machiavellian Melchizedek, a couple thousand years ago. That's definitely a conversation for a different paper, different episode. But he was basically he taught monotheism in ancient Salem, which is now Jerusalem, and that sort of became the basis of some of the monotheistic teachings that existed around the world before the times of Christ. And then, of course, Abraham was one of the students of Melchizedek, and that's where he got his ideas and highest concepts of monotheism from. And he carried that down in his teaching of his generation, which obviously became the Israelites in the Bible.
The Old Testament.
where you have, one of the biggest religions on the planet, of the Abrahamic lineage, Christianity and its source. So the same way we are tracing back universal unity back to God the Father, you can trace back the idea of monotheism in our evolutionary culture, and understanding that story is totally fascinating, and it really gives you a respect for evolutionary religion and participating to figure out these grand mysteries, and not just assume that somebody above you has the answer and you just take it for granted. Like if you take on the journey and you discover these things for yourself, don't stop asking questions until you find good explanations.
Ask them quick.
That's what got us all here.
Yep.
That's what led us all to this secret room that we found.
Yeah, right. Little chat room on the internet. Yeah, that's that. You got a point. That's something we take for granted inherently. I mean, like, I guess that is the significance of the Abrahamic religions. That's why the Hebrew tradition and all that played an important role in the evolution of our God concept on Earth, because they had this idea of like, our God is the one God. During a time when everyone was like, well, my God's the right one. My God's better than your God. It's kind of funny to think like the Greeks had these different gods for everything. Silenus was the god of wine, the god of drunkenness. So whenever you were drinking, you were channeling the spirit of the god of drunkenness. And so there's this idea that they were touching on something there. There's this idea of like deity has different influences, and that's kind of what this whole paper is getting at, is that there, when you talk about God, you could be talking about any one facet of God, but there is kind of a catch-all term, which is God, and it is all unified in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
And I guess on that note, I'll jump into intellectual unity.
Oh, nice segue.
The Thought Father realizes spirit expression in the Word Son, and attains reality expansion through paradise in the far-flung material universes. The spiritual expressions of the Eternal Son are correlated with the material levels of creation by the functions of the Infinite Spirit, by whose spirit response ministry of mind, and in whose physical directive acts of mind, the spiritual realities of deity and the material repercussions of deity are correlated the one with the other. Mind is the functional endowment of the Infinite Spirit, therefore infinite in potential and universal in bestowal. The primal thought of the Universal Father eternalizes in dual expression the Isle of Paradise and his deity equal, the spiritual and eternal Son. Such duality of eternal reality renders the mind, God, the Infinite Spirit, inevitable. Mind is the indispensable channel of communication between spiritual and material reality. The material evolutionary creature can conceive and comprehend the indwelling spirit only by the ministry of mind.
That's so cool.
It's
just cool how they're talking about mind as like a technique, something that you can tap into. It's a primal thing. It's not just like how you think. It's like the way we think of mind down here is so wrong. It's like a cosmic force that you can tap into. It's pretty dope.
Yeah. It's wild that like the greatest minds, some of the greatest thinkers are still confused what consciousness really is. Is it some material interplay of electrons going back and forward? And it's kind of like,
yeah, right.
We're overthinking it, Mind is the I am. It is all there is, and everything else is kind of, I guess, lower grade of that.
But it's such a cool thing. Like mind is what it says. Mind is a coordinator. It's like it just obviously when you separate it, the first separation, mind is the technique where you can like look around. It's your mind. Yeah, it's how you perceive separation. It's how you unify divergent concepts and data points. It's your mind, and you can fortify this. But yeah,
that's true. I guess even with artificial intelligence, that's what we're doing, which couldn't be created without our mind, of course. But you're taking like different words, different vectors, and associating them together. So the very function of mind in general is to make associations. But artificial intelligence, because it's artificial, it can't do that on its own. That's going to be a big part of the way it's built up as this great big thing. Like, is it really intelligent? It doesn't actually have volition. It can't come to new conclusions. It can just make very clever associations between what's already been said by mind, by humans. But but it is fascinating. But yeah, we got something special for sure. And so finish this section up here by saying, this infinite and universal mind is ministered in the universe of time and space as the cosmic mind. And though extending from the primitive ministry of the adjutant spirits up to the magnificent mind of the chief executive of a universe, even this cosmic mind is adequately unified in the supervision of the seven master spirits, who are in turn coordinated with the supreme mind of time and space and perfectly correlated with the all-embracing mind of the infinite spirit. So, what that's saying there, this paper, is 56. It's like
this is wild.
It really does kind of require you to have got to this point in the book, by being familiar with a lot of these terms. But really what that paragraph was saying is you got this level of mind controlling this phase of reality, and that's controlled by this higher level of mind, and that's attenuated by this higher level of mind, and that all comes together in the cosmic mind, which is all that is.
Yeah, I'll do a little deep dive after you.
Yeah, please do. One final little point I wanted to make was this idea that mind is a force. It's that's what the first source and center is the source of pure energy, which is pure force. And when we see energy, like we would immediately think of electricity going through a circuit. It's the flow of electrons. You could think of energy as water turning a water wheel. It's doing work because it's a flow as that water's responding to gravity. Well, there are levels of reality we can't even comprehend. Like paradise, for example. We can talk about paradise, but none of us here will, in our lifetime, ever truly comprehend what it is. It's like some abstract intellectual fractal of patterns that exist. And just like the Mandelbrot fractal, it was there to be discovered in this abstract world. And when we compute it by running those algorithms, you see it displayed on your screen, but it isn't there. It's like in some abstract space, but it's always been there at the same time, just waiting for us to unlock it. So likewise, these higher realities of mind are there. There are these patterns waiting to be tapped into. And so something the Master Key system had touched on is that mind is actually a force. It's an energy that we are tapping into and that we kind of channel and redirect. And it was an interesting book because it's talking about the Supreme Being without realizing it. The author doesn't know what the Supreme Being is, but it's talking about kind of power personality synthesis, which is another concept that comes up. It's this idea of taking that power, that energy, and synthesizing it with your God-given personality. And that's how it all happens. That's how we come together. That's how we build the world up around us. That's what it's all about.
Damn. Mic drop. Amen.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm
Let's
searching.
start over to Taylor.
All right. So I'll try to be quick with it, but I think it's important for us to kind of dive into and for the viewers to understand as well. It says right here, I love how it says mind is ministered. It's a ministry. Like they minister to the time-space reality. It's like a Wi-Fi wave coming into the cosmos, spreading throughout the cosmos, and we can tap into it if we want. I like how they put it. It says it extends from the primitive ministry of the adjutant spirits up to the magnificent mind of a chief executive of a universe. I'll stop there because that's already a lot in itself. The primitive ministry of the adjutant mind spirits. Adjutant mind spirits, we've gone over this before, but if you haven't heard it, it's a gnarly concept. An adjutant is something that performs for you if you're not there. If I can't go to a court, I would send my adjutant, and that adjutant would perform for me. Okay, so these are adjutant mind spirits. Adjutant spirits are, it's like 7 different Wi-Fi bands that are the lowest frequency, and the lowest frequency Wi-Fi bands are tapped into by nature and animals, and there's 7 different stages of them, and these are forms of mind. They function in place of mind. If the being doesn't have a fully active mind yet, or tapped into the cosmic mind, then they're going to be functioning in the lower adjutant mind levels. I'll give you a quick little statement about it. Let's see. We are handicapped for words to adequately designate these 7 adjutant mind spirits. They are ministers of the lower levels of experiential mind, and they may be described in the order of evolutionary attainment as follows. And these adjutant mind spirits appear on planets one by one. So you start with the first one, that's functioning for about, I don't know, say 500,000 to 1 million years. After, you'll see like crabs appear or something, like crabs that can't do shit, or maybe bacteria. And then after that million years, 500,000 years, whatever, boom, that new bacteria or that new crab gets born. It's doing shit that the other crabs aren't doing. And then you can tell that crab's tapping into the second adjutant mind spirit. And then after millions of years of evolution, a species will get generated where the third adjutant mind spirit will make contact. And then until you get to the 7th one, that's where humans appear. I don't think humans appear at the 7th one. We appear at like the 5th one, but that correlates to evolution. And we'll go through, because these animals don't have mind like us, they have to function with the adjutant mind spirits. And the adjutant functions for them because they don't have mind, just like an adjutant would function for me if I was not at the event. Number 1, the first adjutant is the spirit of intuition. It says quick perception, the primitive physical and inherent reflex instincts, the directional and other self-preservative endowments of all mind creatures, the only one of the adjutants to function so largely in the lower orders of animal life, and the only one to take extensive functional contact with the non-teachable levels of mechanical mind. So non-teachable levels of mechanical mind, think about barnacles, like coral reefs, that kind of shit, Yeah, like shit that's non-teachable, but they have the spirit of intuition, and they do have self-preservation qualities. Number 2, the spirit of understanding, the impulse of coordination, the spontaneous and apparently automatic association of ideas. This is a gift of the coordination of acquired knowledge, the phenomenon of quick reasoning, rapid judgment, and prompt decision. Animals do that, The spirit of courage, number 3, the fidelity endowment. In personal beings, the basis of this character acquirement and the intellectual root of moral stamina and spiritual bravery. When enlightened by facts and inspired by truth, this becomes the secret of the urge of evolutionary ascension by the channels of intelligent and conscious self-direction. Now we're starting to reach the higher adjutants. We just did the first 3. Now we're going to the last 4. The spirit of knowledge comes at number 4. It's the curiosity mother of adventure and discovery, the scientific spirit, the guide and faithful associate of all the spirits of courage and counsel, the urge to direct the endowments of courage into a useful and progressive path of growth. 5, the spirit of counsel, the social urge, the endowments of species cooperation, like the herd instinct, the ability of will creatures to harmonize with their fellows, the origin of the gregarious instinct among the lower type of creatures, like a cow or something, they just herd up together. Birds of feather flock together, it's just that spirit of counsel, the herding instinct. Now, after 5, I think humans appear at 5. Right? No, humans appear at 6. Once the human being appears at 5, but it's not classified as a will creature until it hits number 6. So the 2 first human beings were born with the first 5 adjutant mind spirits active on Urantia, the first 2 human beings. And then they made a decision in their mind, and that's when they were classified as will creatures. So 6, the spirit of worship, the religious impulse, the first differential urge separating mind creatures into the two basic classes of mortal existence. So when you hit the sixth spirit of worship, it now classifies all universe creatures into two basic classes: mind and like will creatures like us, or animals. Those are the two levels. The spirit of worship forever distinguishes the animal of its association from the soulless creatures of mind endowment. Worship is the badge of the spiritual ascension candidacy. And then the last one is spirit of wisdom, the inherent tendency of all mortal creatures towards orderly progress, evolutionary advancement. This is the highest of the adjutants. It's just, wisdom. That's it. I'm not going to go into it. It's a little bit longer than that. But so going back to paper 56, talks about from the primitive ministry of the adjutant mind spirits, from the lowest type of mind that a creature could have in the cosmos, a freaking coral reef or bacteria, something archaic and very basic, not complex, all the way up to the chief executive of a universe. That's Gabriel. All the way up to Gabriel. That entire span is ministered by the cosmic mind, or the mind that comes from the third source and center. So I find that beautiful. I find that amazing that it's like one technique but different. I was talking to Magma about it at work. I was like, it's like the 7 adjutant mind spirits. We still have them in us, because we're part animal. But when like a cow herd together, they're tapping into a low bandwidth of that mind sector, if that makes sense. When the cows want to just get together to eat grass. Humans, we want to get together to create society. It's that same energy sector, but we're at a higher bandwidth, a higher frequency. Does that make sense? So it's just it's like there's a set of energy grids, and then how you perceive them. And that's my example of cows congregating or humans building civilization. It's the same energy, but we're on the higher level of the cosmic mind, and they're still on the adjutant mind.
Mm-hmm. So, wow. Yeah, was that decision from, you said we started at the fifth one? The fifth adjutant? Was that decision from Anton and Fanta when they actually literally decided to branch off of the herd?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. That means a lot, right? Even just symbolically, like they upgraded and evolved themselves by saying, we're not with
Give
them.
me the
We're
chills,
do our
dog.
own thing.
I'm surprised you knew that story. Fuck yeah. Good shit.
Yeah, so that was what this
I read. Fuck yeah, dude. Exactly.
What was that? The wisdom? Is that what that was?
Yeah, I think that's 7th is wisdom, but they exhibited that in that decision.
Isn't that so powerful? Just think of it. Like they said, we're not with them.
I just read it. Nope, it's 6 is worship, 7th is wisdom.
Okay, so worship. So I guess worship was what differentiated them to be able to like go off on their own and have some kind of recognition of some bigger picture they were.
I think it says they might have been scratching the surface of both worship and wisdom, because once you break 5th and you're an intelligent will creature, you have access to both. It just depends on how you do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it. What you're saying, Gary, is just like they broke away. That like they had mastered the 5th adjutant, which it's cool how it kind of correlates loosely with the chakras. So almost like
that's how that's how I look at it. That's when I meditate. I like feel those energies and I try to like fucking Kundalini their ass.
Yeah, and it's cool too to consider like looking at the evolution of life on Earth, looking at like a coral reef, for example. Those animals, they are complex in their composition and the fact that they exist and their the role they play in an ecosystem. But if we talk about like spiritual progression, every single animal on that coral reef is living for itself, and as a species develops, it's able to tap into those Wi-Fi bands, those cosmic Wi-Fi bands. They become a little more refined and a little more capable of, as individuals, taking on more responsibility for others and thinking about others. So you look at like the highest animals on Earth, the highest non-human animals just under us, like elephants and dogs and dolphins. They are capable of like kind of caring for each other and kind of like having some kind of relationship. So they are completely self-serving, so that seems to be when you talked about the highest, what did you say, the chief executive master physical controller, whatever, it's like
super high
these
being.
high-level spirit beings, they're ultimately responsible. They're taking the complete weight, pulling all the weight. And I think that's the whole process of evolution on a world, is to create just the right conditions, like fostering a flame when you're cooking out.
Jesus Christ, Taylor, what are you doing? Sorry.
It follows my face.
That's crazy. That's pretty cool. It's intelligent. Yeah, you got to foster the right conditions. That's why evolution is so slow. It's such a long process, because you're cultivating these very careful conditions in the material world.
Taylor, you could use that to your advantage, like a dramatic. When you say something heavy, have it zoom in and then drop a fucking point. But yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a beautiful way to put it. Beautiful way to put it.
And I guess now we got spiritual unification. Take that one up, Taylor.
Taylor gets that spirit. And notice how we did physical, mental, now we're in spiritual triosophy.
Hey, you're right. I didn't even notice that bit. Yeah, physical, mental, spirit. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And 4 is like personality unification.
Really? And of course, personality would come right after that, because that's what comes right after. Cool. Stab us with a spirit knife, Taylor.
What you think? I don't have anything to say. I'm waiting to get on.
It's your time to read. It's your time to read.
Shoot. Let's go. Spiritual unification, section 3. As the universal mind gravity is centered in the paradise personal presence of the infinite spirit, so does the universal spirit gravity center in the paradise personal presence of the eternal Son. The universal Father is one, but to time-space he is revealed in the dual phenomena of pure energy and pure spirit. Paradise spirit realities are likewise one, but in all time-space situations and relations to this single spirit is revealed in the dual phenomena of the spirit personalities and emanations of the eternal Son and the spirit personalities and influences of the infinite spirit and associated creations. And there is yet a third, a pure spirit fragmentations, the Father's bestowal of the thought adjusters and other spirit entities which are pre-personal. No matter on what level of universe activities you may encounter spiritual phenomena or contact with spirit beings, you may know that they are all derived from the God who is spirit by the ministry of the Spirit Son and the infinite mind spirit. And this far-flung spirit functions as a phenomenon on the evolutionary worlds of time, as it is directed from the headquarters of the local universes. From these capitals of the Creator's sons come the Holy Spirit and the Spirit of Truth, together with the ministry of the adjutant mind spirits to the lower and evolving levels of material minds. While mind is more unified on the level of the master spirits in association with the Supreme Being, as the cosmic mind in subordination to the absolute mind. The spirit ministry to the evolving worlds is more directly unified in the personalities resident on the headquarters of the local universes and in the persons of the presiding divine ministers, who are in turn well nigh perfectly correlated with the paradise gravity circuit of the eternal Son, wherein occurs final unification of all time-space spirit manifestations. Perfected creature existence can be attained, sustained, and eternalized by the fusion of self-conscious mind with a fragment of the pre-Trinity spirit endowment of some one of the persons of the Paradise Trinity. The mortal mind is the creation of the sons and daughters of the eternal Son and the infinite Spirit, and when fused with the thought adjuster from the Father, partakes of the threefold spirit endowment of the evolutionary realms. But these 3 spirit expressions become perfectly unified in the finaliters, even as they were in eternity, so unified in the universal I Am, ere he ever became the universal Father of the eternal Son and the infinite Spirit. Spirit must always and ultimately become threefold in expression and Trinity unified in final realization. Spirit originates from one source through a threefold expression, and in finality it must and does attain its full realization In that divine unification which is experienced in finding God, oneness with divinity in eternity, and by means of the ministry of the cosmic mind, of the infinite expression of the eternal word of the Father's universal thought.
Nice.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Cosmic
that was
poetry.
mine.
It's a
Cosmic poetry.
huge mouthful of concepts, and I think at one point in my sort of religious concepts, I might have wondered, like, why does it need to be this complex? But for the same reason that, okay, you know, if you grew up in religion with the Trinity concept, you probably didn't question why they say it's one God, but then they describe it as these three individuations. And when you get into the conversations with them, you know, it's like, well, why do we need to designate them as three if it's just one? Like, isn't this a type? Couldn't we call this a type of pantheism? Like, we have a Godhead, but you say it's actually one being. And a lot of times people will kind of stop there. They don't understand that the Trinity, it's only us looking from time and space, and it said this early in the paper. Us looking from time and space, we see the duality of from the Father of the infinite Spirit and the eternal Son is a duality. But then there's also that third part, and technically this is only an observation from the created beings. Created beings observe it in this threefold manner, because to observe anything, there needs to be some level of separation between those things. And yeah, it's a bit of a paradox, but the whole idea
Definitely a
of
paradox.
why we get into the
It's a
parts of God, I think of it more of like, how do we observe God's personal interaction with the created universe? And it's through these differentiations. It's through these groupings of types and associations. You know, the infinite spirit is related to the mental aspects and moving of the universe and the mental setup of the cosmic mind circuits. So that's why we get this nitty gritty. And at some point, you know, maybe your concepts, you'll enjoy getting this deep. But not everyone likes to kind of go that deep, because they're just like, well, does this change my everyday life? Well, it doesn't change your like maybe daily moral principles, but it is a part of cosmic growth. Is understanding the manifestation of God to the universe and your relation to that manifestation. So it does in a way it does influence your everyday actions, because it forms your worldview and philosophy. So that's why we're getting
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, and at the very least, it offers justification for belief. I guess, like, there are a lot of bold claims in this book, but then when you ask why, can you back up some of those statements? If you want to know the answer why, it's here. You know, they'll go pretty thorough into the explanation of why it's inevitable that a single creator needs to divide itself to end up in this kind of iterative uh, functional loop kind of thing, you know, and then why by a father having a son, you get a spirit inevitably, and then why that Trinity is related to seven expressions, because it's the seven mathematical combinations of three. You know, Father, Son, Spirit, Father, Son, Father, Spirit, Son, Spirit, and then Father, Son, Spirit. And so it's like coming up with the infrastructure of reality. And if you really want to know, then it's all there.
Yeah, yeah. And riffing off what you said, Taylor, like, why is it so complex? Why do we deep dive into the minutia? Because God is infinite. I'm sorry, but God is infinite. That means there's infinite things to learn. That's why it's complex. How does infinity, how does eternity even come close to manifesting itself in the material reality? What does that look like? We can't see infinity. We can't see eternity. What does it look like then? It looks like infinite pictures. infinite patterns coming from the source. So the source is just generating infinite patterns and pictures, infinite images, infinite variety of images, a panorama of variety, multicolor, technicolor, different shapes, different sizes, different forms, different concepts, all the concepts, infinite concepts streaming forth. And we're not even close yet. This universe is young. We're not even close to getting to the last forms and concepts yet. So why is it so complex? Because we're literally perceiving infinity manifested in finite reality. And in order to do that, you're going to have to go through infinite concepts and navigate it. I'm sorry. But if you decide to throw in the towel, we're here to tell you no. All right. Personality unification. The universal Father is a divinely unified personality. Hence will all his ascendant children who are carried to paradise by the rebound momentum of the thought adjusters who went forth from the paradise to indwell material mortals in obedience to the Father's mandate. Likewise be fully unified personalities ere they reach Havona. I love that. I didn't know where this quote was because I think about it a lot, and now I know where it is. It's in this paper 56. The rebound, that's what it said, rebound momentum. And they also talk about that in a different paper, how like the thought adjuster is a compensatory gift to counteract the tension that is created from our separation from the Father. So there's a fat amount of tension that is created by being so far from the cosmic Father, but the thought adjuster is our compensatory, and it rebounds us. It goes deep into it, and then it's like a rubber band effect. It snaps us back.
A rubber band slinging us back to eternity.
Exactly.
As long as we can identify with our thought adjuster and hold on to that, identify with reality, and we're pulled towards, and I guess that is the gravity response.
That's the gravity circuits. Yes, we're getting tapped into the spiritual gravity.
I'm glad you emphasized that quote, because it's one of those ones that's easy to read right past, but it kind of does show our thought adjuster is like a electron in a circuit, and it's just following the charge back to its source.
Yeah, exactly.
Prodigal son.
The prodigal son. Ooh, that's a good one right there. Damn.
Right?
That's a good one. That one hits. Yeah, for sure. For sure. These are all mental pictures. I love it. I fucking love it. Okay, what personality inherently reaches out to unify all constituent realities. That's true. I mean, unless you're lazy. The infinite personality of the first source and center, the universal Father, unifies all 7 constituent absolutes of infinity. And the personality of mortal man, being an exclusive and direct bestowal of the universal Father, likewise possesses the potential of unifying the constituent factors of the mortal creature. Such unifying creativity of all creature personality is a birthmark of its high and exclusive source, and is further evidential of its unbroken contact with the same source through the personality circuit, by means of which the personality of the creature maintains direct and sustaining contact with the Father of all personality on paradise. Hell yeah, man. So just by using your personality, you tap in directly to him. By coordinating more, by building more, by creating the planetary kingdom, you directly contact his personality. It's really cool. Notwithstanding that God is manifest from the domains of the sevenfold up through supremacy and ultimacy to God the Absolute, the personality circuit, centering on paradise and in the person of God the Father, provides for the complete and perfect unification of all these diverse expressions of divine personality, so far as concerns all creature personalities on all levels of intelligent existence, and in the realms of the perfect, perfected, and perfecting universes. While God is too, and in... Anybody have anything to say? Not really? No. While God is too, and in the universes, all that we have portrayed, nevertheless, to you and to all other God-knowing creatures, he is one, your Father and their Father. To personality, God cannot be plural. God is Father to each of his creatures, and it is literally impossible for any child to have more than one father. Philosophically, cosmically, and with reference to differential levels and locations of manifestation, you may, per force, must conceive of the functioning of plural deities, and postulate the existence of plural trinities, but in the worshipful experience of the personal contact of every worshiping personality throughout the master universe, God is one. And that unified and personal deity is our paradise parent, God the Father, the bestower, conservator, and father of all personalities, from mortal man on the inhabited worlds to the eternal sun on the central Isle of Light.
The oneness, the indivisibility of paradise deity is existential and absolute. There are three eternal personalizations of deity: the universal Father, the eternal Son, and the infinite Spirit. But in the paradise trinity, they are actually one deity, undivided and indivisible. From the original paradise Havana level of existential reality, two sub-absolute levels have differentiated, and thereon have the Father, Son, and Spirit engaged in the creation of numerous personal associates and subordinates. And while it is inappropriate in this connection to undertake the consideration of absonite deity unification on transcendental levels of ultimacy, yeah, it is feasible to look at some features of the unifying function of the various deity personalizations in whom divinity is functionally manifest to the diverse sectors of creation and to the different orders of intelligent beings. The present functioning of divinity in the superuniverses is actively manifest in the operations of the supreme creators, the local universe creator sons and spirits, the superuniverse Ancient of Days, and the seven master spirits of paradise. These beings constitute the first three levels of God the Sevenfold, leading inward to the Universal Father. And this entire domain of God the Sevenfold is coordinating on the first level of experiential deity in the evolving Supreme Being. On paradise, and in the central universe, deity unity is a fact of existence. Throughout the evolving universes of time and space, deity unity is an achievement.
Damn.
Nice.
It's an achievement.
Yeah, got achievement down
unlocked.
here. Yeah. Achievement unlocked for paradise. Again. Yeah, you're right. We've been recording for like an hour 10. Let's get to an hour 30 and call it. So whoever Magma, if you want to keep it going.
Yeah, I can finish this off with
No,
this
like-
last, and then
like 12, 13
then
more minutes.
I'll be going.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Unification of evolutionary deity. When the three eternal persons of deity function as undivided deity in the paradise trinity, they achieve perfect unity. Likewise, when they create, either associatively or severally, their paradise progeny exhibit the characteristic unity of divinity. And this divinity of purpose, manifested by the supreme creators and rulers of the time-space domains, eventuates in the unifying power potential of the sovereignty of experiential supremacy, which, in the presence of the impersonal energy unity of the universe, constitutes a reality tension that can be resolved only through adequate unification with the experiential personality realities of experiential deity. So that is a mouthful way of basically talking about the Supreme Being and his power personality synthesis concept. Personality realities of the Supreme Being.
Oh, okay. Sorry. This is all about the Supreme. Yeah, right. Okay. The
Pretty much,
evolutionary deity is the Supreme Being. Okay.
Yeah, and that was their kind of elaborate way of
Okay.
setting up that idea that there's a what did that say? A reality tension that's resolved through the Supreme Being. Basically, a way of connecting the dots between the highest point and the lowest point. As material is manifested into life, life grows and flourishes and evolves into upright humanoids that can see and know God and kind of act as the extensions of the universe in the universe. And then as we grow up and ascend all the way up, build up our integrity as consciousness, and correlate with each other, that's basically the actualization of the Supreme Being. It's God being realized in our world.
Yeah, so it's like an amalgamation of all experiences of all beings,
Pretty
all
much,
evolutionary beings, and they all get grouped into one and create a supreme being. And
Yeah,
he hasn't appeared yet. He will appear soon, but well, not soon, but
probably not anytime too soon.
no, not anytime soon. It's the next age. It's the next threshold that we need to get to.
That's right. It's what it's all leading up to. And there was a quote somewhere in the book. I don't know where, but it was something along the lines of like, the presence of God is visible in as much as he's recognized. So like, if nobody in one village recognizes God, there's going to be a lot of like theft and crime, and everyone's looking out for themselves. Let's use a city as an example. In one city, maybe God's not widely recognized, so the city is just falling into chaos and disorder. And then you look at like a town somewhere off where everyone's kind of unified and working together. Everyone knows their neighbor. All come together. You're not going to have those problems because God's a lot more present. That's kind of what we're setting up here. Personality realities of the Supreme Being come forth from the Paradise deities, and on the pilot world of the outer Havana circuit, unify with the power prerogatives of the Almighty Supreme, coming up from the creator divinities of the Grand Universe. God the Supreme, as a person, existed in Havana before the creation of the 7 super universes, but he functioned only on spiritual level. The evolution of the almighty power of supremacy by diverse divinity synthesis in the evolving universes eventuated in a new power presence of deity, which coordinated with the spiritual person of the Supreme in Havana by means of the Supreme Mind, which concomitantly translated from the potential resident in the infinite mind of the infinite spirit to the active functional mind. Supreme Being. What is said to
that is honestly a new mental picture for me. I've never really conceived of the fact that Paradise and Havana have their own supreme beings or supreme deities. Right? So all Trinity, all Source and the Center have their own supreme. They say the Almighty Supreme, the Supreme Mind, the Supreme in Havana, and that trickles down to our supreme being. Wow. So there are supreme beings that are in existence already.
Yeah, and that's basically the second Trinity, which is kind of mind-boggling. Bill Sadler Jr. gets into this, but there's eventually a third Trinity as well, and then a Trinity of Trinities that never
Trinities.
Oh man,
resolve the paradox that unfolds that keeps reality going. But the second Trinity, from my understanding, is like God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Almighty. Is that what that is?
No, Almighty. Yeah, I think Almighty. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we gotta carve that out some other time. Yeah.
The material-minded creatures of the evolutionary worlds of the 7 super universes can comprehend deity unity only as it is evolving in the power personality synthesis of the Supreme Being. On any level of existence, God cannot exceed the conceptual capacity of the beings who live on such a level.
That's what you're kind of talking about right there. Yeah.
Mortal man must, through the recognition of truth, the appreciation of beauty, and the worship of goodness, evolve the recognition of a God of love, and then progress through ascending deity levels to the comprehension of the Supreme. Deity, having been thus grasped as unified in power, can then be personalized in spirit to creature understanding and attainment. While ascending mortals achieve power comprehension of the Almighty on the capitals of the super universes, and personality comprehension of the Supreme on the outer circuits of Havana, they do not actually find the Supreme Being as they are destined to find the Paradise deities. Even the Finaliters, 6-stage spirits, have not found the Supreme Being, nor are they likely to until they have achieved 7th-stage spirit status and until the Supreme has become actually functional in the activities of the future outer universes. But when ascenders find the Universal Father as the 7th level of God the Sevenfold, they have attained the personality of the first person of all deity levels, personal relationships with universe creatures. So, another mouthful, but there is being told a story of stories. It's like we're we're somewhere here on the progress bar of infinity, and it's like way out here. There's like the end of the story, but not really, because it keeps going. But basically, we're trying to see the final actualization of the Supreme Being, which isn't going to happen anytime soon. That doesn't mean the Supreme Being is totally irrelevant, this abstract concept, but it is a way of laying out the narrative of creation, why it's unfolding. We're world 606 out of 619 worlds, out of an event like a planned 1,000 worlds of our system. And, our system's a part of like constellation, minor sector, major sector, all that. There's
Shitload of planets.
Number of planets out there, yeah. And each one's working towards this goal. And someday there will be like all 1,000 worlds in our system will be complete. They'll all be eventually achieve like a high level of advanced civilization in an era of light and life. And in that remote future, that is the actualization of the Supreme Being, because he's complete. It's when you've gotten all the collectibles and achievements in your video game, you finally completed it. That's the goal. And though that seems like a far off goal, we directly benefit from doing our part here on our world and even in our community of actualizing that power personality synthesis, of doing basically the will of God. That is what God the Supreme is us doing the will of God and kind of just bringing people together. And, helping each other out.
Amen.
So, we'll probably end there, but I want to barf my concept out of what you just said too. Pretty much the same thing, just in my words.
All right, I'll catch you.
Yeah, exactly. Pull my hair back. So the universe is like an arena. It's like a sandbox with X amount of personalities, and we're all just kind of fighting or elbowing each other or loving each other to figure out how it goes. There are a multitude of planets with a bunch of different types of evolutionary life like us. Just like humans, maybe they look a little bit different. Maybe they're bird humans, maybe they're bat humans, whatever. They think and feel like us. They have civilization, they have kids, they love, they hate, they go through the evolutionary gamut, just like our planet does. But some planets are extremely advanced, like super, super, super fucking advanced. And the Urantia Book calls those planets in light and life, as in they have hit the last stage and their planet is pretty much a utopia. It's like perfect. There's no hardship. They're just kind of like studying in college for the universal career all day long from birth to death. We couldn't imagine that. The Urantia Book says if we were transferred to that planet, we would think it's heaven. But it's not even close, because it's still an evolutionary planet. It's still really low. They have just achieved perfection on their planet. That's not the majority of planets. That's the minority. I guess in this universe age, the entire goal is to get every planet to light and life. Once every planet hits light and life, so when every planet, all the people stop fighting, every being in the entire cosmos stops fighting and working together, is when the Supreme Being will reveal himself. And then the wall or the barrier on the outside of the universe we were talking about earlier, that wall will get lifted, and then a new universe age appears. And maybe there will be even lower beings than us, and we're going to be in charge of getting those beings back to the Father. But we're way off from that, obviously. But that's the next layer in the video game, the next level in the video game. So if you're being a piece of shit and you're holding everybody back, you can only run as fast as your slowest man. So fucking stop.
Yes, a convoy can only move as fast as the slowest vehicle.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is, I mean, at least this book kind of describes that next stage as a mystery, even to all these high cosmic agencies and celestial beings.
It's no clue.
One big mystery. They all speculate, like, what's next? What will happen when all the finalitors come together, and make their part of the third trinity of trinities or whatever. It's a big mystery. They're in this book. The beings are speculating on it, but they at least know what needs to happen to beat the level. It's just
they say it'll be us. It'll be us who, in that next age, will be like the administrators in the new part of the universe, where they're going to send us. When we make it to the Father, they're going to send us back out way into the depths. So I'm excited for that mission. Going to be billions upon trillions of years. I'm happy to serve with you guys all the way up until then. Because guess what? We're stuck with each other, even after this life. Yo, Gary, I need fucking 100 spirit bucks, dog.
Spirit bucks, spirit coins.
Yeah.
Yo,
Invest
so,
now.
Quick note. So I just read it in another paper today as listening through it. It says in that next universe age, the beings that will populate it, they won't need to be. So the current time space era that we are in is signified by evolutionary intelligence. And from that, the supreme being is created. It says that in the next age, because we have the supreme being of evolution, it's that evolutionary concept of intelligence. The next beings, it's not going to focus on that evolutionary concept of intelligence.
Yeah, it'll be totally different. We can't fathom what it is. Yeah,
and
we can't even perceive it.
Like, even though it's taking place in time and space, it's not going to be based on that evolutionary concept of how planets currently progress these levels of consciousness. Maybe the mind spirits aren't even going to be like relative using that same function anymore, those adjutant spirits, because we don't need. The universe has already fully expressed the evolutionary concept upon the emergence of the supreme being, which is the God personalized into the evolutionary time space. So if you want to think of like, what level is the universe currently trying to progress through right now? Like, what's the core lesson? Well, for the time space universes, the core lesson is evolutionary advancement.
Evolution.
And that's like the chapter of this game that we're on. And so thinking
next?
about it like that, that's like a real universe adventure. Like, so yeah, I encourage anyone watching this podcast, if you've been kind of drab about, about religion, about spirituality, about your life direction, like tapping into this is what really kind of changed my perspective and my worldview, from the basic and evolution, the commonly accepted evolutionary concepts of religion, which don't get this far. They don't get this far to supposing upon what's the current purpose of the universe age, what are we doing in the universe after, and what's it's all for. So correlating these ideas, very unique, very specialized, and thanks for joining the episode.
Hell yeah. I'm about to do an outro if anybody wants to say anything.
Bye.
I just think this was great. This was awesome, very empowering. And I think you said it before, Taylor. This is sort of like an adventure. It leads you down the hero's journey.
Hey.
And, truly dogmatic religions don't grant you that. They grant you, I don't know, sort of constriction. Bondage, yeah, exactly. So this is very empowering. And man, I feel it right now. So
he's in the spirit.
Yeah.
You can cook an egg on his third eye right now. Sorry, stupid shit. This is part 1. Part 2 gonna come soon. If you haven't watched all the other videos, go watch it. We got some nuggets of truth in there. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all the cool cosmic broadcasts. Gary Lee Haskins YouTube channel. If you're subscribed to me, you should be subscribed to him as well. More episodes coming soon. If you want us to talk about something, if you want a book that you want us to read and analyze from our point of view, join the Discord and shoot us a message, and we will gladly go over it. You want to participate in the legacy, join the Discord. Information will be in the bottom. And until next time, I don't love you guys.
Peace.
In the minds of the mortals of Urantia, that being the name of your world, there exists great confusion respecting the meaning of such terms as God, divinity, and deity. Human beings are still more confused and uncertain about the relationships of the divine personalities designated by these numerous appellations. Because of this conceptual poverty associated with so much ideational confusion, Deadrick Baker and the Legacy Foundation for Human Progress has been tasked with disseminating trisophic truths. Please do enjoy, like, and subscribe for more.